Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Redefine Your Life. Faith and I would like to talk to you guys today about spirit guides, kind of what they are, how they can help us, and what we can do to be better listeners when they are trying to communicate with us.
Mm-hmm. Spirit guides, guys. I am so excited to talk about this with everybody today. I have the wildest story that I'm going to share with you guys about how I met my spirit guides for the first time. Julia, have you met your spirit guides?
See, I have a hard time saying yes to this because I feel like I have, but I feel like because I'm still growing that muscle of communicating and understanding, I sometimes have more doubt than I do the comfort and the trust and the knowing that my spirit guides are there. And the best way that I find myself reminding myself to be in tune with my spirit guides is just by asking for them, like feeling like I'm kind of
Mm-hmm.
not being guided. And as soon as you have this moment where you're like, I feel like I'm not being guided, and then you're like, can I just please have a sign? Like, can you please guide me? Like, it's just like pew 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 pew.
Immediately, rapid fire.
Like I think I have, but I think the most connected, if I were to say yes to that, to spirit guides, I would say I feel the most connected with my spirit guides when I'm actively trying to be present in my moments and in my life, because then I start to notice these different little signs. And I mean, I'd love to break down and get into stories if you want about, what this might look like so people can maybe understand if they've already had experiences with their spirit guides and they might not have known exactly what it was, or just thought it was a coincidence, a fluke, or just happened to be serendipitous.
Yeah. And that's a question that, gosh, I've been asked by a couple of my friends, like, how do you know when you meet your spirit guides? Like, how do you know that they're spirit guides? Well, the first time that I met mine, I didn't know that that's what they were either until I like woke up and I was like, oh shit, these are my spirit guides. Like, I just met my spirit guides. Holy crap. But let's break down what a spirit guide is. Like, why are they here? What is the purpose of a spirit guide? Um, it's to guide you. It is to help give you guidance in whatever you need in your life, like whatever your journey is, whatever questions you may have, ask and you shall receive. This is the best part about having spirit guides. A spirit guide is the same thing as a guardian angel, someone here to help you along your path in life.
I think a spirit guide can be, so spirit guide is kind of like an umbrella term, I feel like, meaning that there's like
Mm-hmm.
spirit guide is at the top, and then underneath spirit guide, there's kind of like these different variations of what they might be, like energetic beings. Like some people believe that your spirit guides are actually like alien races and stuff like that. And
Mm-hmm.
some people believe that angels are also like an alien race and stuff like that. But I kind of believe that angels are a form of our spirit guides too. And there's
Yeah.
just so many different interpretations of things. So if you kind of need to have a mental image, I guess you could imagine things like guardian angels or loved ones that have passed on, like the energies of
Mm-hmm.
loved ones in our families and like our genetic lineage, like our ancestors would be considered like our spirit guides and stuff like that.
Right.
So there's,
Basically,
mhm.
anything that's not human, hence the
Yeah,
term spirit.
it's an energy outside of ourselves that we can tap into. And
Oh,
it's great
yes.
because these energies kind of surround us, just like life force energy is all around us, with, if you think of like matter and all that fun stuff, and like how like down to like the micro level, there's like organisms living in the air around us, like there's
Mm-hmm.
bacteria living in the air around us. So life force energy is all around us because there's literally life force all around us, like life things that are living right
Yeah.
all around us. And just because we can't see them, like we don't see bacteria without a microscope and stuff like that, but we know it's there right around us. We can't see our spirit guides necessarily. Maybe you can if you train your eyes and you're receptive and you're, you know, being open to maybe trying to see them, and you ask to try to see them. Like the more you kind of work on listening and actively listening and getting better at interpreting the signs, that is how you kind of strengthen your connection with your spirit guides. But they're always there, right? So it's like they're always there. Mhm.
Yeah. So, like, key word there, listening. That's one of the first ways that you can tell if a spirit guide is trying to make a connection with you is, ear infections, when your ears start ringing. There's a lot of the spiritual community who all mutually agree that that is your spirit guides trying to contact you, trying to talk to you. I've started listening to my ears ringing in such a depth ever since I heard somebody say that. I don't remember who it was. Was it you that told me that? And so now every time I start hearing my ears ringing, I stop and I think about it and I'm like, okay, what was I just asking for? What was I just talking about? What was I just thinking of? What side of my ear was it on? Which direction do I need to go? Like, does my ear ring louder when I walk this way? Like, if I've lost something and I'm trying to find it, and my guides will literally take me to it.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I love that. And something you said, when you said the key is listening, I got tingles from the base of my neck down my spine. And that's something that some people are, and I'm not cold because I'm actually sweating right now. Well, it's okay. You can't see it, but some people will compare like the tinglies, like you kind of get like a tingle or like this like tickle on the back of your neck or the back of your spine, which is similar to the feeling that you get when you're cold, like when you go outside and you get like a shiver down your spine, but it's not like that. Like you're not cold. So it's not like exactly the same, but it's kind of comparable. So if
Mhm.
you've ever had like that feeling where you're like, oh my God, somebody just said something and I just got tingles, like, oh my gosh, goosebumps and
Yeah.
tingles all over my body. Like it's a reaction from your body because you know what you're hearing is coming into you. And that's kind of similar to like when spirit guides are talking to you. You might get like these intuitive hits where you're like, oh my gosh, is that what my spirit guide's trying to tell me? And you have like a moment like, oh my gosh, is that what they're trying to tell me? And you'll
Mhm.
say it out loud and then you'll get the tingles and you're like,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Uh-huh. That's literally it. That's one of the ways that they connect with you. And it's so cool. It gets me so excited talking about spirit guides because, like, my first experience meeting my spirit guides, like, I was so interested because you were the first person that brought spirit guides to my attention because I told you that I thought I was going crazy when I started my endeavor down my claircognizance path. And I was like, man, I feel like I'm losing my mind and I really don't know what to do. It's not like I can just like post something on my social medias and say, hey guys, I can see the future. Is that crazy? I mean, obviously I'm going to get a psychotic response. And you were like, well, ask your spirit guides. And I was like, what do you mean ask my spirit guides? Like, I have those are there, those are a thing. And you're like, well, yeah, silly goose.
And then, yes. And then it starts to make sense when you've gotten like these all of a sudden like ideas. Like if you ever just get like an idea that pops into your head, sure, it might have been triggered from something in your surroundings, but sometimes those ideas are planted from your higher self or your spirit guides because your higher
Hmm.
self is also a spirit guide.
Yeah.
Higher self, I like to think of, and you might have a different interpretation, so please share if yours is different, but my interpretation of my higher self is this version of myself that has the ability to experience all of the different times and planes of my soul's existence all at the same time. So it's a detached version of my soul that it's still attached to me, but it's a higher version of my soul that has the capacity to experience all of my timelines simultaneously at the same time, giving us then intuition about our paths. And it can help us then guide us because it can experience that energy can experience all of these different things for you at the same time and then help you make decisions about things. It can kind of see the path and how that's going to pan out for you. And it can see this and how that's going to pan out for you and experience those timelines and then help you make intuitive choices about what's going to best serve you.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. That's exactly how I define my highest self as well. And if you're having trouble connecting with your spirit guides, you can just ask to speak with your highest self, because that was how I actually attempted my first contact with my spirit guides. As I was asking, I was like, okay, well, let me make contact with my highest self then. Like, me, what would you do in this situation? And it was so crazy. It was like I have this key word for astral projection whenever I go into my meditation and my astral project, and my key word is butter. Because I come from like a solid what 3D human being, and then I just melt like butter. So I said my key word, And all of a sudden it was just like I was right next to me, but I looked totally different in the sense that I didn't have dyed hair, I didn't have any tattoos, like it was just me and I guess what you would call like the original form, but it was me at the, I wouldn't really call it the end of my journey, but my highest self, like myself that has got to experience everything. And it was like in the presence of myself and my highest form, I have never felt so much peace in my life. Like that was one of the most beautiful moments that I've ever had, was like sitting next to my highest self.
I love that. I just got goosebumps. So beautiful. I mean, it might sound intimidating. So when Faith says, just ask, and like, it's so easy, just ask, it might sound intimidating, but she's not kidding. Like, straight up sit there, take some moments to try to center yourself. You know, if you're like me, it might take you a while to be able to sit still. But once you get there, sit for a second, and maybe there's something on your mind that you've been wanting to ask somebody. Like for me, it's like my job stuff. And I'm like, Mom, should I do this? Should I do this? And I ask everybody, but really who I should be asking is myself and my higher self, right? To make these decisions. Because who has your best intention in mind? Your highest self. You do, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have your best intention in mind. And sitting with yourself and then just asking what that question is. What should I do? Like you said, what should I do? Like what would myself do in this situation? And the real kicker, the hardest part is waiting for the answer, being
Yeah.
patient, waiting and realizing that it's not something that you're searching for outside of you. So you have to realize too that the signs and like the way that your higher self might try to communicate with you is going to be in ways that only you are going to understand.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just say, for example, like your higher self, like, oh, I guess I could tell my story if you want.
Yeah.
Okay. So I had this realization that like about my work and like what I want to do. And I've been kind of progressing my mindset around the type of career I'm trying to foster for myself, especially going into this new year. You have new goals and stuff like that. And what I came around to when I was talking with my mom was like, okay, well, if I just work for this many weeks, like I did like a budget plan, if I work for this many weeks and I do this and then I do that, then I think that I could do 3 13-week long things, and then I would have enough time to do whatever I want in between. And that would be enough funds for me and yada, yada, yada. You know, I would be stable. And I go up into my bedroom and I'm like, I just like, don't know if this is right. I like ask my mom and she's like, I don't know what's best for you. Like, whatever, like do what you want, you know? And I'm like, that's not helpful. So I go
Thanks,
up and
Mom.
right. And I'm like sitting in my room and I'm like, I had been talking to my girlfriend, a different friend. And I was like, I feel like it's just like that time. And I was like, oh, shoot, I need a watch for work. So I had gone over and looked at one of my watches and I knew the battery was dead because this watch is so old. And I looked at the watch and I was like drawn to it. I looked at it and I was just like, oh, like, I'm glad I never got rid of this. It's so pretty. Like, and I was looking at the time and the time on the watch was 3:13. So all three hands were facing three and it was at 3:13 the time. And I was like, huh, that's funny. And then I heard it start ticking. I heard it start going tick tock, tick tock. You hear the little when you listen to a watch. And I was like, what? I was like looking at it. I'm like, it's not moving. And I hear the ticking. So I pulled it to my ear and I heard it even louder, like so loud that I was like, oh God. I pulled it away and I looked at it again. I'm like, okay, it's definitely not moving, but I hear the ticking. And then I put it down and it stopped. And I was just like, okay, I guess that was exactly it. If I do my 3 to 13, I'm going to have all the time. But I was like, well, then it might
Yeah.
stop. I'm like, what does that mean? So although it was a sign specifically for me, I wouldn't have known. I didn't even realize until I put all the pieces together talking to my friend. I was like, do you think that's what this means? And then I actually didn't even really realize until I was in the car driving. And then I realized it like hit me like a ton of bricks. And I was
Right.
just like, oh my God, like that was,
Yeah.
I'm saying all this like as if I realized in that moment when I was like just freaked out last night. I was like, I'm just crazy. I'm going to pretend like that didn't even happen. Like, I don't even know what that was. And then 24 hours later, after a good night
Mm-hmm.
rest, driving to work, I was just like, oh my God. And I realized like, oh my God, that's what that's what that meant. But only I could realize what that was. And it took some time for me to sit with the sign
Yeah.
and realize like kind of what it was telling me. And then what you realize even more is that there's more to unpack. after you get one little sign and one little thing, it's like, well, now I have so many more questions. Now I need
Mm.
to know more about this. So it's like, then I now feel like, this is what I told my mom, I'm like, I need to meditate and I need to sit with this and I need to like try to hone in and ask my spirit guides through meditation, through trying to connect with them. What more? What more are they
Yeah.
trying to tell me? Please guide
Isn't
me. Like,
that
I need the guidance,
oh.
please, and just asking for it and like, ooh, tingles, huh? And just asking for it and just being willing to sound crazy to yourself for asking, right? Like, being
Mhm.
willing to be like, yeah, I might look a little crazy. I might sound a little crazy, but damn, do I feel better now that I asked?
Right, exactly. And that was how it was with me, like first time meeting my spirit guides, because I was so worried that I just sounded freaking crazy telling people that, like, okay, I just saw this happen in my head and then it literally happened 10 seconds later. You guys, I don't know what's going on. And so I was like, okay, spirit guides. What do I do? Like, am I actually, do I need to be locked up? So I went to bed, and as I was falling asleep, I was like, okay, guys, please help me. I don't know what to do here. Like, please tell me if I'm like just crazy or not. And so I went to bed, and it was like I was in this elevator, okay? I immediately enter the dream and I'm in this hallway of a hotel, right? And there's an elevator. I hate elevators. I am terrified of elevators. And these elevator doors just open at the end of the hall and I'm like, "Oh shit. I'm meant to go in there. I have to go in there cuz the doors are open." And I start pulling on the doors and they won't open, so only option, Faith, get in the elevator. So I did. I get in the elevator, and sure as shit, as soon as the doors close, that thing falls straight to the ground.
Oh my
And so I'm
gosh.
like freaking out. The doors open, and then there's five people standing in like this dungeon, I guess is what you could call it. The doors open, five people standing in like a letter C and waiting for me to walk up to them. And they're like all in robes and shit, all creepy and scary and stuff. And I'm just looking at him like, I feel like I'm gonna pee. This is a lot to handle. And they just look at me. I looked at this one lady. She made me feel so safe and so comfortable. And I went up to her first, and she was the only one that I just looked at, and I felt like I was home. I felt like I was okay. It felt like mom to me, but she looked nothing like my mother. And the two of the five people that were there were these huge, like giant human beings. They were like three times the size of the people. And that's what my
Aliens.
guardian angels looked like. And eventually, after I woke up, after meeting them and like being scared and everything, I was just like, oh my God. And then I was super interested about why two of them were huge. I was like, why were they giant? Like that's a weird thing to do. Like why wouldn't they all be people size? So I like did my research and everything, and I found out that like when they come to you like that and they're huge, it usually means that they're archangels. And I was like, oh my God, archangels, that sounds interesting. And one of them gave me a sword and told me that I had five battles that I was about to fight, and they were going to be really intense, and that they were going to make me who I am. And that was how I was going to unlock basically my highest self, was through these five battles. So I took the sword as I'm like bawling my eyes out, and I'm like, I don't want to fight. And he's like, well, you're going to fight. But Archangel Michael, everyone.
Mm-hmm. And as you're talking, I just keep getting these tingles, and it's just insane because when you guys experience this, when you actually like get the chance to, when you take the chance, I should say, when you take a chance on your
Yeah,
spirit guides and you fully give in to just it all, like, right?
let
Like,
go.
but like, I'm talking about your self judgment, giving
Hmm.
into your self judgment, giving into the judgment of others, and just give it a shot. Like, give it an authentic shot and see what happens. Because once you experience it, you're going to be raving like we are, and you're going to be like lit up and probably a little scared too, honestly, because I know it
Yeah,
can be kind of scary. Like, to be like, what do you mean
exactly.
there's beings watching me all the time? Like, what? Like, what do you mean I can tap into this at any time? Like, what? Like, that's kind of crazy, you know?
Right.
And that sounds like so like woo woo and whatever. And I know people have a hard time, and I had a hard time too. And I even have a hard
We
time
all
when other
did.
people will tell me, right? Like I have a girlfriend and she was telling me something that her spirit guides told her. And I like read the message and I was like, yeah, whatever. And then I was like, wait a minute. And I like read it again and I was like, no, okay, well, maybe they did, like those are her guides. Maybe they told her that, like that's not for me to judge. That is not for me to judge. And if you don't feel comfortable telling other people what your guides tell you, don't. It's not for
Exactly.
them. It's for you. They're
Exactly.
guiding you, right? They're guiding you. They're not guiding those other people. They
Hmm.
have their guides.
Yeah. And like one of the key parts of my story was me walking into that elevator. I had to face one of my fears head on in order to meet my spirit guides. So don't think that it's something that comes to you easy. And also don't misunderstand us. Your spirit guides are hard to get to. Even your highest self, it's not like we just have them on tap. Like I can just snap my fingers and say, oh, hey, highest self, would you like come here and like tell me how long I need to boil this egg for? Like, it's not something that is super easy. Like you have to prove yourself to get there, which is why I tell people like if you're having a hard time meeting your spirit guides, what I would do is suggest that you look inward and do a little more of that shadow work that means so much.
Mm. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like you wouldn't expect to just walk up to a basketball court and throw a basketball and like shoot a 3-point shot, right?
Yeah.
Maybe if you were
Yeah.
really lucky, and maybe there's a time where you asked for something or you didn't ask for anything and you were given a sign because like your spirit guides want what's best for you. They want what's best for you. So
Mhm.
they're going to they're going to do their best to communicate with you. But if you spend your whole life pushing it away, it's going to take some time and effort to bring it back. So
Yeah.
as much as we'd love to be like, it's super easy, it might be easy, it might feel easy for us. And I think that's why when we're saying these things, we're so excited about it because we have been spending the time working on trying to strengthen this connection
Oh yeah.
and just experiencing it and like really like enjoying the experience, but also like just learning so much from it, and like not
Mm.
always good,
Mhm.
like good, but that just goes to show that like it does benefit you to try to work this muscle, right? This connection, this communication. To work at this communication is going to take effort, but it's so worth it. And that's why I think we're trying to get you to want to have that connection because it's there, it's for you,
Mhm.
and it's only going to strengthen the guidance that you can have. It's only going to
Yeah.
make things easier for you, even though it's going to like life's going to have challenges, life's going to have ups and downs, life's going to throw you curveballs, and life's going to do what it does. Life's going to keep doing life, right?
Always.
And what disservice, it would only be a disservice to yourself to ignore free guidance.
Right, exactly. Even kings and queens, way back in medieval times, they had a council, they had
Mhm.
advisors. It doesn't hurt to have guidance.
And you just have to kind of ask for it. And in asking for it, it's more than just vocally asking for it. Like, yes, ask for it vocally, but ask for it in your actions.
Hmm. Yeah.
Show source, show your higher self, show these guides that you're willing to listen and
Hmm.
that you want their help, right? You
Hmm.
want their help. You want to be
Yeah.
guided. And you don't always have to listen. I mean, shit, if you don't listen, it's just going to get louder though. I'm going to be honest with you.
Oh
when you
yeah.
when you start listening and you start tuning in and then you're kind of like, "Oh, ooh, I didn't want to hear that. That's not what I wanted to hear." But, your spirits guides are like, "Yeah, well, too bad. This is what you got to
Mm,
deal with right now." And you're going to like, "No, I don't want to." They're going to get louder because once they have your attention
yeah.
and they know that you know that they're there and this connection that you get, it's like you can't fully ignore it. I mean, it's kind of like, I guess, like your family, maybe like connecting with extended family. And now your extended family knows you exist. Don't be mad at great aunt Susie for calling you, wondering how you're doing and trying to help you because she cares about you. She wants what's best for you. And you've made the connection. So now make the effort to keep it and to grow it and to
Mm,
foster that relationship with your spirit guides.
keep them with you. Listen to their guidance. I mean, Julie is 100% correct. If you don't listen to the advice that they give you, they're just going to end up ruining your life. That's like you got a little piece of moldavite that you didn't want. It's going to come in and it's going to wreck your shit if you don't listen. My mom is a great example of that. She's been getting signs and she knows exactly what it's about, and her repercussions, the things that she has had to pay for in her life for not listening, is the most tragic thing ever.
I
Don't
even think
ignore
it's
the
the spirit
signs.
guides though. I think it is the spirit guides trying to help you, but I think like what you're saying, I don't think the spirit guides are spiteful is what
No,
I
no, they're
don't think
just
that's what
trying
you
to
meant.
help.
Yeah, I don't think that's what you meant, but like maybe her ignoring the signs and the guidance that they're giving her has led to her being in crappy situations because she
Yeah,
didn't listen or
yeah, they're
she didn't
it's
take the
more of like
guidance, right? It's like you
yeah.
can take my advice or you can leave my advice, but if you don't take my advice, don't be mad when you don't get the result that you wanted, you know?
Hmm. But no, it's not out of spite. It's more of like, well, sometimes if you don't listen, like we're not going to give you much of a choice. Like you're just going to continue to destroy your life and we don't want to see that happen. So like here's this rock that we're going to put in your driveway. Like here's a giant boulder that you're going to have to crawl through now because you didn't listen and like take the way out that you were supposed to.
Because realistically, like if we believe that our higher self has seen all of these different timelines, it can kind of see that boulder coming and it's going to be like,
Hmm.
oh shit,
Yeah.
the boulder's coming. She didn't listen to my first time. Well, let me scream a little louder. Maybe I can, oh geez, the boulder's here.
That's a
If only
boulder.
she listened to begin with. And it's like, it's not to beat yourself up necessarily that you're not listening to your guides. But at the same time, don't play the victim card on yourself that your life sucks, that nothing's going your way if you're not trying to listen and be helpful and listen to the help, listen to the voices that are
Hmm.
trying to be helpful.
Hmm.
And instead of letting all of the things that happen in your life be the determining factor of if you keep trying to listen, like, oh,
Hmm.
well, my guides didn't help me this time, so I'm just going to stop listening to them. You know, like I said, life's going to be life. You can't blame
Hmm.
your guides and your these beings, these energies and these things that are trying to help you and to guide you for the way that your life unravels because regardless of their input, it's going to happen anyway. Right? So if
Yeah.
they're metaphysical, if they're not in this physical realm, they can't change this physical realm. You can. So them trying to get inside, you going inside to try to get them to help you is because they're going to help you because you're going to be the catalyst of the change. You're going
Yeah.
to take the guidance and you're going to make the change. They're trying to catalyze your change in a direction that's for your highest good.
Yeah. I do want to talk a little bit more about how if you don't meet your spirit guides, the way that their signs can come to you. A lot of people can feel, I mean, I felt really discouraged for a minute that I couldn't meet them. So instead, I took baby steps and I asked for signs. And let me tell you, you can get as specific as you want to when you ask for signs. If you ask for a general sign, if you're like, I need a sign, and you just leave it at that, and then you come to me and say, well, how do I know when it's a sign? It's like, well, tell them what to give you, guys. It's ask and you shall receive. Once again, that's my favorite thing to tell people when it comes to spirit guides. I asked for a sign to see. Okay, so we've established that I like cars. So one of the signs that I asked was to see two muscle cars, and I specifically listed what I wanted them to be, each one a different type of classic American muscle car. And guess what? In that same day, and I'm telling you, like it was supposed to snow within that week, muscle cars should not have been on the road, and I saw both of them in the same day. That's how you know. That is how you see your signs.
Yeah, you ask for it. I mean, sometimes it comes as simple as me trying to figure out my timeline and being like, I think this is it. And then later it reinstills your thoughts. So it might be like a reinstilling, like my kind of thing, or it might be like something where you're actually asking, like, hey, I need to see this,
Mm-hmm.
like show this to me. And were you just asking because you wanted to know that they were there? Or like what were you asking? Why were you asking for those specific things? Because it was related to what you wanted, like the car, right? Or did it
No,
have nothing to do with that?
No, it had nothing to do with cars. It was a job question. It was a career choice. I'm like, should I stay with this job or should I not? Like, I really don't know what to do. Like, I had this other job opportunity that I could have taken, and I was so split because in my eyes, I was like, these are kind of like 50-50. Like, do I flip a coin or do I ask my spirit guides? Because this is a huge life decision that I'm about to make. So I said, you know what? If I should switch jobs, this is the sign that I want to see. If I should stay with my job, this is the sign that I want to see.
Some people might argue then you're looking for certain things, right? Like, oh, well, of course you're going to see the thing you're looking actively for. And it's like, yeah, but that's why I wanted you to elaborate a little bit. I think that was very helpful.
See, and that nothing gets me more hyped than when people are like, well, you're looking for it. It's like, well, yes, because I asked for it. And the signs that you should be asking for are not like, oh, I need to see a bird.
I
No,
need to see a
honey,
pig fly.
birds are everywhere. Ask for something crazy. Ask for something that you wouldn't normally see. Just like with numbers, your spirit guides communicate a lot through numbers. So if you start paying attention to numbers, and I'm talking specifically like synchronicities or like weird numbers that just pop up out of nowhere. Like, I woke up one day and I looked at my phone, and my spirit guides know that I keep an eye out on numbers, but usually I just pay attention to the synchronicities. So the same week, I learned about something called Gematria, which is like codes in numbers. So I woke up and I checked my phone, and one of the numbers, I mean, like, who wakes up and their phone is on a stopwatch? My phone was on a stopwatch, and the numbers were like 3547 or something crazy like that. And I was like, okay, that's weird. But I remembered that I just learned about Gematria, and when weird numbers come through to you, just go to the Gematria calculator on Google and look up what it is. And it gave me exactly what I was looking for, relevant to the situation and everything. And it was like the most terrifying thing ever. But that's another way that you can find your signs, is by looking at synchronicities and numbers.
I don't know if sometimes you don't have to be in like a meditative state to ask for these types of things, right? Like you don't have to be in
Correct.
any special training or anything. Like we're talking about it, you learn through your experiences how to get better at communicating with your guides, but it's not something that you have to take like a class where you just start to learn yourself from trying different things. So
Mm-hmm.
experiment with it, right? Try it out for yourself. See if you can get some guidance and see if these answers can come in the ways that you're asking for and be specific, like Faith's saying. And after you ask, make sure you're looking and listening, right? Like don't just ask and then forget about it.
Well, sometimes the best thing is like sometimes you can forget about it. And sometimes it makes it so much better when you do forget about it. And then the sign just drops in your lap. And then you're sitting there shitting your pants because you're like, I forgot I asked for a sign. And here it is, clear as day.
I guess you're right. That's so true. No, you're right. That's so true. It's all, I think it's all relative to your own experience because
Yeah,
something that might be like life changing for you might not mean a lick to somebody else. So also know
exactly.
that like when you see those things, people are like, oh, well, that's just a sign for you because you love puppies. It's like, exactly. It was for me.
Exactly. It was for me, not you.
Yep.
I love that. Guys,
God.
signs, they're personal. They're personal. And it's okay if you, and you know what? If you ever need help, there's a bunch of us out there who love interpreting signs.
Well, that's something true too. If I mean, although your messages are going to be for you and stuff like that. Like, I don't know how many
Mhm.
times I call my friends and I like, even just talking with them about the thing, I'll tell them about my situation, about what I saw, about this. Even if they don't have the answer, sometimes talking with them will spark the answer in yourself from just talking about it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Because that's exactly when Julia was talking about her 313 story, she was actually in the middle of sending me a Snapchat video about it. And I got to watch her genuine reaction where she was like, oh my God, I just realized what it was. And then the funniest thing about it was that I was actually working out of town. And on my way back home, I had to type into the GPS, like my route to get back to my actual job, and my ETA that came up on the GPS was 313. And I had to tell her, I was like, Julia, I know you got your signs, but I just want to let you know they gave me the sign for you too for confirmation.
And it's just crazy, you talk to your friends and like I don't know if it's just because the people that I surround myself with are very much working towards these types of things too and very receptive to these things too, but they make it easy to talk about these experiences. Like you make it so easy to talk about, and having that judgment free zone truly allows for you to receive the messages.
Yeah.
So if you can't get into that judgment free zone by yourself, you're not going to be able to get there with another person. So start with yourself, start with trying to get there yourself to that judgment free zone where you can ask and, you know, maybe,
Hmm.
ask then your friends once you start to learn, be like, oh, I've been tampering with this and this has been my experience so far. And see if then after you've like kind of tried to navigate it by your lonesome, what you come up with, and then bring it to the table with somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember telling my story about my dream and meeting my spirit guides, and I'm always going to be convinced that that's exactly what happened. But like the first couple times that I told people about it, I thought I knew it sounded crazy, but I don't care because I know that that's what happened and it's personal to me. And if I know that that's what happened, then why should I feel crazy?
And all of our experiences are relative to us, like subjective to
Hmm.
us. So yeah, you really can't judge. I mean, we talk about judging other people's and like lives and comparisоnism and all that other stuff in our other episodes. And this is kind of along that same boat. Like, don't be comparing how good or bad you are at talking to your spirit guides compared to somebody else. Oh my gosh, I saw this huge sign and like, oh, I've never had those types of synchronicities. Like, don't get yourself caught up in that mindset. Like,
Mm,
just be present in your timeline and in your experience and in your life and worry about your damn self, really. Like just worry about your
yeah.
life and focusing on what you're trying to do for your highest goods, for your joy in your life, to bring you all of those experiences because they're going to come
Hmm.
to you regardless. So hopefully tuning
Yeah.
into it and listening better is going to help you instead of like we said before.
Yeah. And in that circumstance, a good thing to ask yourself is, what would my highest self say to me right now if they saw me struggling with this? And that's an easy way to get your answer too.
Meditation's great for I think listening, and what I love about meditation is you can try to clear your mind so that you're not sitting with these swirling thoughts because sometimes your mind when you're trying to make a decision it feels like that never ending like circling around. And I think that's sometimes when we try to ask for the guidance and then we feel like at least I feel stressed out sometimes trying to ask for the guidance because I feel like I can't quiet my mind enough to then ask for it. So
Yeah.
there might be things that you do need to do to try to get into that space, but then again, like you might just find one day you're overwhelmed and it's kind of like hands in the air. Okay. What do I do? What do I do?
Hmm.
And then
Yeah.
that might be the breakthrough moment for you where things start to piece themselves together in your mind and you just start to understand what the signs
Yeah.
are and what they were trying to tell you.
Exactly. That full surrender, just like manifesting, is like you have to release your resistance.
I get in my own head and I think it's so funny when people talk about cannabis, they're just like so like, ooh, tiptoe around this. It's like, no, let's talk about it because it's legal, first of all, in New York.
Right.
So
Right.
and
Exactly.
besides that, like I actually know clients of mine that have gotten Reiki sessions, and specifically one of my friends I'm thinking of, she said that she was unable to actually she's like she actually felt the session we did together because we smoked together first and then
Hmm.
we weren't even like it wasn't even like an official session. I was just kind of like, do you I feel like you need Reiki, girl. Like you were just like, I feel like you need this. She was like, I do. And I did my session on her and she was saying that that was the most relaxed that she felt she could get in her body is when she smokes and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
sometimes you do need those that little bit of maybe I only I mean I promote cannabis, maybe other natural
I mean, I
things like
share it
mushrooms
like,
and stuff like that too might help you loosen up to get into that subconscious part of your brain that is your judgment free zone. Sometimes you really have to just like fully let loose, and if you can't do that without like using like marijuana or like something like that to help like calm your nerves, so to speak?
So something that I would also want to recommend to people is like the way that I also met my spirit guides that night was that I smoked weed before I went to bed. Like that's the only way that I can get myself to that true resistance free, relaxed, like clear mindset in order to do that.
Yeah, sometimes cannabis is the only thing or one of the best things to help us relax enough to fully be in that mindful present moment. And I know I've had that experience with certain clients with getting like meditations and Reiki sessions and stuff like that. And when I did my Reiki training, I actually did a cleanse where I didn't use any substances for 60 days. And not only did it strengthen my connection, like my meditation practice and stuff like that, but I started to realize that I could get into that zone of calmness by myself, but it took a lot longer to do it without things like cannabis and stuff like that to help me
Hmm.
just kind of get into that subconscious part of my brain. And sometimes people don't like smoking because it makes them anxious and it makes them think about things. One of my friends said this, it makes them think about things that they don't want to think about. And I'm like, my response to that was, well, maybe it's trying to bring your attention to something you should be thinking about and you
Oh
should
yeah.
be resolving inside of yourself, right? So
Oh
sometimes like
yeah.
the natural herbs and these remedies can actually like cut through that resistance that's in our minds, maybe subconsciously trying to protect ourselves, but what it really isn't protecting you because you need to get through that funk and kind of navigate whatever it is in your mind that you don't want to think about and
Yeah,
figure out why do you
exactly.
not want to think about that, right? And like sit with that and
Hmm.
stuff like that. So sometimes even like smoking and stuff like that, whatever it is that you kind of need to do, I'm not totally promoting like that you should be using things to help you every time, but
Right.
if you're having a hard time letting go of that resistance and you're having a hard time fully being just like letting go and being relaxed and stuff like that, try using something like that and see if it helps, right? If you've been struggling or you've tried and you feel like you can't, maybe that would help. Some people say cannabis actually like inhibits their intuitive abilities. So I've heard both, and I think that that just goes to show that it's relative to the person.
Exactly.
You
How
you know,
many
you
times do we
know
have to say your journey is your own?
what's going
It
to work for
is.
you and only you will. I mean, you're going to know what's going to work for you and only because if you're being authentic and you're really being truthful with yourself, you're going to know if this helps or inhibits. And you're going to
Yeah.
learn through your experiences if it helps or inhibits and keep trying because sometimes it's still like cannabis sometimes will help and sometimes it will hinder. So it's
Hmm.
very situational for me. Sometimes it will help and sometimes it won't. So just kind
Yeah,
of,
100%.
yeah, be willing to, you know, I want to say do whatever it takes, but be willing to keep trying to communicate with your guides. Be willing to do more things to try to calm yourself instead of just being like, well, I can't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Your guides are not going to come to you if you try once and you give up. That's not the attitude. But also, I just one last note that I wanted to mention is from a witch's perspective, there's also certain things that you can do to strengthen the connection to your guides and might actually help you establish that bond to begin with, which is doing things like forming rituals and having an altar specifically. And we can talk about that later if you'd like to.
Maybe we could do like a breakdown of like how to build an altar, like very simply, and then how to like
Yeah.
spice it up, so it can be something super simple. And it can also be something I like to build it. And I actually like to change my altar as I change. Like sometimes I just like
Mm-hmm.
look at it and I'll be like, this needs a refresher. Like I need to move some stuff around.
That's
And then
important.
yeah, yeah. And that's kind of like getting into those intuitive hits when you're like, ooh, I feel like this needs to change. And then you change
Hmm.
it. And then you're like, okay, that feels much better. And then what you don't realize is that that's actually strengthening your intuitive connections to your
Yeah.
guides and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
100%. That's like the little ways that they're speaking through you.
Yeah. I think guides can also help you navigate situations and relationships and stuff like that too. So don't be surprised. Like some part of me likes to think that like our spirit guides are conspiring yours and mine for our highest goods together sometimes, like as much as I feel
Absolutely.
like they are for us, I kind of feel like it would be naive of us to think that our guides don't communicate with other guides, like other people's guides. So
It would be naive to assume that we know everything about our guides.
Yeah. Only know what we've experienced, and that's personal.
Yep.
Person to person, you know? So, yeah, I hope this was helpful for maybe strengthening a new relationship that you may or may not have already been open to. And if you guys have anything that you want to ask us about spirit guides, please do so. We would love to host like maybe a Q&A on Instagram Live or something like that. Um, After the episode comes out, if anybody has questions about it that they want us to go into further, any questions about the altar, any questions about anything, we'd love to
Yeah,
hear
I'd
from you
love
guys.
any opportunity to talk more about
And I mean, we could anyway, because we could come in with some rituals and
it.
maybe some nice mantras and like affirmations on how to strengthen your own intuitive bond, which will then help strengthen your connection with your spirit guides and your higher self. So, as per usual, we love you guys so, so much. And we hope to be on again soon.
Yeah, we'll see you next time. Thanks for stopping in and blessed be.